Today we'll look at tips and tricks to answering UTME questions on English language. So our content, these are some of the topics we'll look at today. We'll begin with oral forms, focusing on stress in English language, vowels and consonant sounds, comprehensions and registers, what we call closed passages, vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms. Then we'll look at the recommended text, the life changer. You're aware you were given the book titled The Life Changer to read. So we'll look at possible questions that could be asked by JAMB. Then commonly misspelled words. We're beginning with stress in English language. Now, before you focus on stress, I want to believe you must have been taught what syllables are. So we'll start with that. What's the syllable? A syllable has to do with the breakdown of words in smaller units. And when you're given stress, you look at that aspect of the syllable that covers the stress. So in English language, we have the primary stress, and the secondary stress. Before we go further, let's define what stress is. Stress may be defined as the degree of breath force in a word or syllable. It is giving greater power or force to a syllable. In other words, when you pronounce a word, there's a part of that word that is stressed. And that part is seen as the primary stress. Okay? This means for word stress, a syllable is given greater power. For example, you have the word madam. Now let's break this word down. Ma-dam. Madam. The part that is loudest is the first part, which is the first syllable. So you have ma-dam. That's the stress. The primary stress falls on this part. You must have come across questions in JAMB where you have words that are written in capital letter, for example, examination. The fact that it's in capital letter means this is where the primary stress falls. Then you have words like outside. The fact that this is in capital letter means that this is where the primary stress falls. You should also note that in English language, affixes are not stressed. Now, what are affixes? You talk about words that have prefixes and suffixes. You do not stress the prefix or the suffix. They don't carry stress. Words with single, in English language, we have words that have single stress. We have words that have two-syllable words that have two-syllable words are disyllabic, and then 2, 3 or more syllables are polysyllabic. Let me take that again. Words with a single syllable are referred to as monosyllabic words. For example, go, come, sit. Words with 2 syllables are disyllabic. For example, over. That's why the O is written in capital letter. River. R-I written in capital letter, meaning that part of the word is stressed. And then listen. L-I-S written in capital letter, that's where the primary stress falls. Words with 3 or more syllables are polysyllabic. Examples, afternoon. Noon is stressed. Referee. Re is stressed. Entertain. Tay carries the stress. So 3 or more words are polysyllabic words. 2 or more words are disyllabic words. Now, most disyllabic words that have the same spelling are either nouns, adjectives, or verbs. Yes. Let's look at this on the board. Most disyllabic words are either nouns, adjectives, or verbs. For nouns and adjectives, the stress falls on the first syllable, while for verbs, the stress falls on the second syllable. There's something you must note in English language. Content words. Content words like nouns verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Content words carry stress. They naturally attract stress. While grammatical or function words. When we talk about grammatical or function words, we have prepositions, conjunction, pronouns, and determinants. They do not attract stress. So when you're talking about stress in English language, you're looking at words in these categories: the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, and the adverbs most of the time. And remember what I said earlier, affixes do not carry stress. Your prefix, your suffixes, they do not attract stress. And your content words attract stress. Grammatical or functional words do not attract stress. So you can't find the stress in the word on. For example, look for the stress in the word and. Look for the stress in the word he. Look for the stress in the word the. So these words do not attract stress. When they do in sentences, they are the weak form. In other words, they do not carry as much power as the content words. Is that understood? Okay, let's look at this. Now it says most disyllabic words that have the same spelling are either nouns, adjectives, or verbs. For nouns and adjectives, the stress falls on the first syllable, while for verbs, the stress falls on the second syllable. For example, the word subject. Now, if I ask you, what's the meaning of the word subject, you will tell me courses we offer at school. Some of you will tell me to put someone beneath you, okay? Or to put someone in a position where the person is forced to do what you want that person to do, right? So when I use when we have something like this, subject and subject, the way the words are pronounced would give you the actual meaning of the word. Subject. Oh, I offer 9 subjects in school. In this case, it's a noun. Subject. She was subjected to do the particular task. In this case, it's a verb. So the stress falls on the second syllable here, while the stress falls on the first syllable here. In JAMB, you'll be told your questions will have N or V. Where you see the N, it means it's a noun. Where you see the verb, it means it's a verb. Let's look at other examples. You have escorts and escort. Escort is the person who probably goes out with someone, like a protocol officer in that sense. Then escort is the act of doing that. Someone comes visiting and then you see the person off. You're escorting the person out. So in this case, this is a noun and this is a verb. Let's look at the slide. We have rebel, a person who goes against authority. Rebel, the act of going against authority. Other examples, record, a document of facts or events. So you have your hospital record. In that case, that book or file is the record. Then record, the act of taking notes of facts or events. You're standing here, you go for an event, and then someone goes about recording it. That's the verb. Import, goods being brought into the country from another country. Those goods are the import. Then import, the act of bringing in goods into the country from another part of the world. So notice that the stress of a word actually determines the meaning of that word. Now we look at another exercise when it comes to stress. There's something we are familiar with called emphatic stress. Let's look at that quickly. You must have come across a question in English language where you'll be given a sentence and one particular word is written in capital letter that stands out from another word. And then you're told to identify the emphatic stress in that sentence. Now, this is what it means. Emphatic stress, this is also known as contrastive stress. Emphatic stress is placing emphasis on a word to draw a listener's attention. For example, Mr. Sunday walks in and then he says, "What did you have for lunch?" And I tell him, "We had fish for dinner," for lunch rather. I have stressed the word fish in that sentence. So because I have stressed that, fish is what carries the emphatic stress. Fish has been stressed. So from the above sentence, the word fish is stressed to show the exact type of what? Food that the people had for lunch. Example, did the hawker show you the way? Hawker is carrying the stress. And in that case, that's the emphasis of that sentence. Who showed you the way? Did the hawker show you the way? And then the response is, a traffic warden showed me the way. So traffic warden has been stressed in that sentence to show that it's not the hawker who showed me the way, but rather a traffic warden. Now let's look at other examples. For example, the boy come home, let's say home has been stressed in that sentence. What do you do when you're giving sentences like this? In other words, when you are asked, did the hawker show you the way? You would have options such as A, did the hawker show you the house? B, did the hawker show you the road? C, a traffic warden showed me the way. D, a hawker showed me the way. So when you have that, look for the one that is different from this stress. That's how to answer the question. So what you do is, you look for the response that shows something different from what has been stressed. That gives you the answer. It's something we all enjoy doing, and then when you have questions like that, always look for the different option from this word that has been stressed. Now let's look at rules of stress placement. Like I said earlier, affixes do not carry stress. It's the root word that is stressed. By affixes we mean prefixes and suffixes. They never have that at the back of your mind. So when you're giving a word to identify the part that has the primary stress, look out for that word to determine whether or not it has a prefix or a suffix. Example, you have undeniable. Already, on is a prefix. D is a prefix. Able is a suffix. So where's the stress? Ni, N-I. Okay, in that case. Number 2, words that end with C-I-O-N, S-I-O-N, I-E-N-C-E, I-U-M, I-C have their stress on the penultimate syllable. Now let me explain what that means. Ultimate is the last syllable. Penultimate means second to the last. Anti-penultimate means third to the last. Always have this at the back of your mind. So the last word, the last syllable cannot be stressed. Okay? In other words, last syllables that have T-I-O-N, I-T-Y, S-I-O-N, I-C, and so on and so forth, they cannot carry the stress because such words might be an affix. So the stress, of course, will fall in the penultimate syllable. Examples you have information. Other examples you have education. This is the second to the last. You also have examination. So any word that ends with C-I-O-N, know that the stress falls on the anti-penultimate syllable. So we'll go for a quick break and then we'll be right back after.